Yo, 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 what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this video, we are once again talking about college hoops, and we are coming off back-to-back winning days on Sunday and Monday. Monday being a fantastic day for us, and when you're looking at that Saturday card, that was the last video that we had. All these posts since then have been on my Twitter/X at RobDFB, but that Saturday card, man, if you guys watch the Kansas game, that's that takes the cake. That takes the cake for the worst beat of the entire season. 18 seconds left, up 6, shooting 2 free throws, and not only does Kansas not cover plus 2.5, they lose outright by 6 points after that game goes to a second overtime. Baffling. I've never seen that in the fog. I've never seen that with Bill Self, but it is what it is. This is sports betting at the end of the day. We run a risk every single time we place a bet, regardless of how big that bet is actually sized. But when we're looking at this card for Tuesday, I'm very excited. But first, we obviously need to shout out today's sponsor, ProfitX. And down below, you can use that link as a sign up and get a pretty sweet deposit match bonus for doing so. And ProfitX is fantastic because it eliminates what I think is the biggest scam in sports betting, VIG. Nobody likes betting the minus 120 lines, the minus 118, the minus 115, and ProfitX does a really great job at neutralizing that just from a sportsbook perspective, and you can really use that sports betting platform for a number of different reasons. And when you're looking at their eligibility, you know, this isn't an offshore book. This is an in the U.S. book that's eligible in 40 out of 50 states. So make sure you're using that sign-up link down below, getting a deposit match bonus and adding that to your rotation. But for Tuesday picks, man, I'm excited to hop into them, and I say we go ahead and do it. All right, first up, we are heading out to DeKalb, Illinois, where we have Northern Illinois taking on Akron, and the Akron Zips last time out pulled out the biggest win of the MAC conference slate, if you will, and not by just the point margin, which arguably it potentially could be. I'm not entirely sure, but it was definitely the biggest win in terms of magnitude and the ability to shake up the standings, as they beat the other unbeaten in this conference, Miami of Ohio, by a pretty decidedly large number. And usually when that happens in the MAC, and we've seen this a number of times over the past decade, is you're going to see that team the next time out fall flat against one of the bottom feeders in this conference, and there's a lot of them over the years. The disparity in this conference is greater than a lot of other leagues, and when you're looking at this matchup, do I like Northern Illinois? Absolutely not. I think they're a bad basketball team, but sometimes a team like Akron can go in here and sleepwalk, and I do think that's a strong possibility here. So let's go ahead and take a boatload of points here with Northern Illinois for 3 units for our first bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 2, we're heading out to the OVC, where we have Southern Indiana taking on Morehead State, and Morehead State is a big brand in this league. They've been kind of the front runners in this league for quite some time, and Southern Indiana is actually relatively new to Division I basketball, but when you are looking at this matchup, Morehead State is kind of falling down from their usual selves this season, as they have a first-year head coach. They've had a lot of roster turnover, and when you're looking at Southern Indiana, although their record isn't really the most glossy in this league, they have faced some of the best teams in this league, and they have been dealing with a lot of injuries that are actually kind of starting to get remedied. And when you're getting 7.5 points, when you have a clash of a well-known brand and a brand that's not really well-established at all, period, I love getting the 7.5. So let's go ahead and take those points with the Screaming Eagles for 2 units for our second bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 3, we're heading out to Lawrence, Kansas, where, man, oh man, I mentioned it at the beginning, but this team absolutely broke our hearts on Saturday. Just inexcusable, and it almost makes me hate the bet that we're about to place, but they're taking on UCF here, and Kansas is laying 13 points. I feel like if there's any time to gut check yourself, it's after a massive loss where you had it in the bag. at home at the Fog with Bill Self and a veteran core at your disposal. And if Kansas doesn't come out in this game and win by 20 plus, I'm probably out on them the rest of the season here, to be completely honest with you. And honestly, there's prospects for a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 run at that as well. But let's go ahead and lay those 13 points here with Kansas for 3 units for our third bet here on Tuesday. Pick number 4, we are heading out to Provo, Utah, where we have BYU taking on Baylor. And this is Baylor's second game and sort of the mountain time zone road trip that they're going to be going on throughout the Big 12 season. And not just Baylor, but every single program that hits the road towards Utah, towards BYU. And BYU is laying 3.5 in this game. Baylor is coming off a big win on the road at Utah, where they handled Utah throughout the entire game. It was never really up for grabs. It just kind of felt like Baylor blitzed them and kept the lead. And when you're looking at this matchup, I do feel like you're probably going to split this road trip more often than not. This is a short number, and for that reason, I don't mind laying it with BYU here. So let's go ahead and lay the 3.5 points for 2 units for our fourth bet here on Tuesday. Pick number 5, we are staying in Utah, where we have Cincinnati taking on the Utah Utes. And the Utes looked pretty darn awful the last 2 times out against Houston and against Baylor. Both of those games were decided by double digits, and both of those games really didn't feel like Utah had a chance. And when you do look at Utah, this is, again, a very high variance team that if the shot isn't falling, those are going to be the results. But when you're looking at Cincinnati, this is a bad team. And I feel like, again, Utah is eventually going to pick off some teams at home just because the altitude is there, just because of their variance, and just because, you know, they still have a pretty veteran-heavy core. And when you're looking at this matchup, I do think Utah gets this one. So let's go ahead and take the Utes on the money line for 4 units for our 5th bet here on Tuesday. All right, for our final bet here on Tuesday, we are heading out to Spokane, Washington, where we have Gonzaga taking on Oregon State. And obviously, the last time these two teams matched up, Oregon State pulled off a crazy upset winner on their home court against the Zags. And honestly, Gonzaga has not been impressive this year. They've had a lot of games that they let fall through their hands. They've also lost 2 of their last 3, one of them being to Oregon State. But the last time they touched their home court, they lost to Santa Clara in a game that saw over 200 points. And that's just something you can't take lightly. At the same time, Mark Few and the Zags have a very talented roster, and he's obviously an elite coach. And if there's any buy low spot, as crazy as it sounds, it's in this game where they're laying 13.5 points against a team that's already beat them this season. And for that reason, I say we jump in with the Zags. We lay those 13.5 points here for 4 units for our final bet here on Tuesday. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video. And if you do want to show some love, make sure you drop a like on this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you comment down below. But with all that being said, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.